Welcome to Perspectives El Paso. I'm Professor Leon Blevins, Professor of Government at El Paso Community College. I've been doing this program since 2007, and during this period of time, we are now in late October of 2015, I've had several judges. Some of them call me and ask if they could be on this program, and so I've had several of them on the program over the years. In recent days, I have been Uncle Sam at a program at the Airborne Museum on Fort Boulevard here in El Paso, Texas. At two of those events, I saw Judge Angie Juarez Barill and her Veterans Program Assistant, Silvia Serna. And so I decided to invite them to be on this program, and we're going to talk about something called Veterans Court. Several years ago, I had Robert Anchondo, who is a judge over drug court, one of the drug courts. And a very interesting interview. In fact, his assistant called me and asked if the judge could be on this show. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us, Professor
Judge,
Blevins.
glad to have you here. And Silvia, I see you
Hello.
from time to time out in the community. As I came out of my office this morning to go to class on the judicial department, that's the subject we're on, the American judicial system, I was wearing a cap that said, "Fun drugs may kill fun," and a t-shirt that said, "Party sober." And I opened the class with talking about drunk drivers killing people in Stillwater, Oklahoma this past few days, and here in El Paso, Texas, and asked the students to write little essays about how such cases affect them personally and what is the role of government in these areas. Now, these are the kind of things that you deal with in your court. One of my colleagues saw me standing there. I'm from another department, two of them together, and one of them talking about my shirt, and I said, well, this afternoon I'm interviewing a judge that presides over Veterans Court. And one of them said, Veterans Court? Never heard of Veterans Court. Why do we have a Veterans Court, and when was it created? Is that a good question to start with?
It's a great question, Professor Blevins, and so we're very happy that you asked us to be here. There is so much more work for us to do with our Veterans Court. There's a lot of people in our community that are not aware of the fact that we have a Veterans Court, and so part of our work with having Veterans Court is to allow my director, Silvia Serna, and myself, and other people in our team to go out into the public to talk about our Veterans Court. I'll ask Silvia to kind of tell you about when that started.
Okay. And yet, Silvia, what about it? When did this court start here in El Paso?
In El Paso, we started in 2009.
Well, that's not very long ago.
No, but let me preface it by saying that in 2009, it was a misdemeanor court that is run by another judge,
Okay.
and the felony component started in 2012 with Judge Barill.
Okay. Well, then, what is your job description? Are you dealing with veterans? Do you categorize some of these cases you have with, say, just petty things like stealing shopping carts from stores, and then you move up to more serious situations, then you move up to drugs and alcohol? What kind of cases do you hear?
Well, as Silvia indicated, we started my court in 2012, so seeing many of our veterans and our active military come through our courthouse doors, all you have to do is be there on a Thursday and know how we're affected by our veteran community or our active military community. As a district court, I hear civil cases, and I also hear criminal cases from state jail felonies all the way up to capital murder cases. And so I was about 2 years, I guess it would be 3 years that we're open this August, and about 4 years ago, I was looking at all of our active military and our veterans coming in through our doors, and I said, something needs to be done about our Veterans Treatment Court to include felonies. A lot of the community doesn't know that when someone is convicted of a felony, they lose all their benefits. They lose the ability to be able to even be buried in a military cemetery. And so I thought it was very important that we open up our courts and our doors to felony cases. And so when we did that, it's very typical of the cases that we have that come through our doors, especially through Veterans Court, are aggravated assaults with deadly weapons, DWI third or more, assault, family violence, impeding breath or circulation. And so these cases are not your regular run-of-the-mill cases that come up on misdemeanor courts. These are very serious cases. And what happens is when we open up our court, there's certain legislative criteria that is warranted to bring someone into the court. And one of those things is that they be a veteran or active military, that they have served in combat or hazardous duties. That has changed effective September 1st. There's some changes that are good for our treatment courts. That they have a mental illness, and so once they follow that criteria and we screen them, we bring them into the Veterans Court. So it has to be because they were in the military and they have a mental illness. And many of the people that we have in our court now as veterans or active military that are screened and accepted into our court, usually this is a first offense. And
are they directed to you by county attorney, district attorney? How are they directed to your court? And then where do you send them for treatment?
Right.
The referrals are not by the county attorney or district attorney. They may be, though.
Okay.
But the majority of the referrals are from the public defenders, you know, the public defense bar.
Right.
Also by some judges, they'll refer them to our court, and also veteran organizations.
And especially their families.
Family members
Okay.
as well. We've had several of those phone calls. And you know, we have not gone publicly like TV, you know, to get the word out, but there is an infomercial, you know, on our county operator system, telephone system, and that has brought in a lot of referrals.
Well, we need to get you to put a telephone number, a website, or whatever you want to do to get these referred to you. Recently, I had Carlos Rivera on the program, and we talked about some things coming up. The program at Trans Mountain Campus, most recently about veteran heroes. And about a week or so later, Carla stopped me and said, I've had 10 people that have called me from watching your program and they need
That's
help.
wonderful.
So that's what we hope, that you'll get some of these.
Thank
so
you.
Give us a number, or numbers.
Absolutely. Well, I did bring a brochure. I don't know if the TV could, you know, zoom in.
Well, you leave that with us and
Absolutely.
we will be able to zoom it. Okay?
But we do have a web page. It's in the El Paso County website. If you go under courts and you click on the 346, right beneath it is Veterans Court. We do have our own link.
Okay.
And then my telephone number is 546-2119.
Okay. We're going to put that on the screen, and then we'll leave that with our co-producer, Marco Lara, and he'll
Thank
be able
you.
to put that up for you.
Thank you.
That's what this is. This is an educational, informational program. It's not for entertainment, though we try to be entertaining sometimes. But we want to get these messages out there. With regard to the veterans that you have, what about networking? I like to find out about networking. You work with the public defender's offices, the county attorney, the district attorney. How do you formally mesh all of this together before they get into your courtroom?
Before I started my court over 3 years ago, I actually got a team together, and that team included many members of our legal community, such as the district attorney's office, a member of the public defender's office, from the probation department, VJOs, Veterans Justice Outreach from the VA, our compliance officers, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we did is I compiled a team of people that would be assisting me with our Veterans Treatment Court. And that's part of our networking, making sure that someone is represented, that everyone's represented, and then we make decisions about when people are screened, when they come in, and then decisions during the time that they're here with our court about whether they phase up, whether they stay, et cetera, et cetera. So some of that treatment protocol, of course, is very important also. We also had a memorandum of understanding with the VA and William Beaumont to make sure that when our men and women come in through our court, that we have some sort of policy and procedure in place so that we can refer them to treatment and therapy.
Many years ago, I had two sisters that were alcoholics. My father was an alcoholic, and my two sisters became alcoholics. One of those sisters, she and her husband went to AA, got dried out, and then they became counselors in that field, and actually going into jails and meeting some of these people and getting them into diversionary programs or training programs afterwards so they didn't get involved in recidivism and being right back there again. Do you see very many of recidivist cases coming back to you? You haven't had the court open a long time, but have you seen some of these, or are you pretty successful in getting them out there?
You know, because we're fairly new. We started the program in 2012, the latter part of the year, and our graduations didn't start till 2014, so we really don't have any benchmarks.
Yeah.
Because it's
As
an
far
18-month
as-
program.
18-month program?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right, it would take at least 5 years for us to be able to establish if it's being effective, you know, cost effective when it comes to the monies that are expended and also being housed in jail and what have you. So we're too new to tell,
Okay.
but I could tell you from the last 6 graduations we've had, we have not heard of anyone relapsing or getting arrested or being in the system again.
Have any of these communicated with you in some way or another thanking you for what you did in getting them that direction?
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah.
We have individuals that come visit with us after they leave the program or call us. Many of our participants are not from El Paso, so they actually leave El Paso, go back home, whether it's North Carolina or Pennsylvania, other states. And so we have quite a bit of communication. Many people tell us that they wish that they were back in
Yes,
Veterans Court.
yes.
Do you want to tell them about
Yes.
that story?
We have we've had a couple of individuals, and actually it's the spouses as well. They saw the structure that was given to them while they were in court. It's almost like military base. We tell them when to, report, when not to report, when to take a UA, when not to take a UA. So it reminds them of their military experience. So we've had a couple of them that the spouses have said that they noticed that their spouse was happier when they were reporting to Veterans Court because of the structure. It reminded them when they were in the military, and they also like the camaraderie that they have, with their brothers and sisters. So yes, we've had that. We were surprised because we thought they wanted out of the program, but they've actually liked the way the program is run.
Well, some become institutionalized even to prisons, and they get out and they have trouble adjusting again. Some of them just soon go back and do things to get to go back.
And we've actually asked them, did this program help you when they come visit with us?
right.
And they say, we're leaving El Paso. They come in with their family and their children, and they'll say, come over to say goodbye. And one of the things we'll ask is, can we ask you a question? Did Veterans Treatment, the El Paso Veterans Treatment Court really help you? And they're absolutely ecstatic about having, not initially, of course, but having gone through the program and where they're at now. We're holistic in nature. We not only help them with their treatment, but we help them with housing. We help them with their education, some other things. I mean, we just don't look at one thing. We move on a lot further than that. But they'll tell us, what happened, what we did was to save lives. We saved their life. Otherwise, they probably would have gone another way and through another road instead of through our Veterans Court.
Several years ago, I got a telephone call from a woman who wanted to be on this program. And she said, I want to talk about wounded warriors. My husband, he was in the first Gulf War, and he went to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and a Patriot missile turned over in the battery that he was working with and injured him for life. And she said, could I be on the program and talk about wounded warriors? Now, he was not in combat, face-to-face, physical, eye-to-eye combat. It was that kind of injury, but it was affecting her and her son and him. Do you find this sometimes? You find some that they don't seem to have a resolution to their problem because they're so severely wounded?
Absolutely. We have a number of participants that have traumatic brain injuries, and we're unable to help them here in El Paso because we don't have a hospital in El Paso. So what we do with the El Paso VA is that we refer them to another hospital that can help them and that can assist them, and we're able to assist them and send them there as part of our program. And we can see a real difference when they come back as to who they were before they went to treatment and when they come back. And during those 18 months, we can see a real difference with their continued treatment, aftercare with the El Paso VA. And we try to assist them as best that we can, but we can only do so much. Some of those injuries, as we know, are invisible, but they're permanent. There's nothing that we can do except to help them in getting better, coping with their symptoms and things of that sort. But there are permanent injuries, and so we can only do so much.
Now, I assume that you certify certain organizations that can work with these veterans. You direct them to these organizations. You find they're not serving the purpose well, you decertify them, I would assume, and divert them somewhere else. What about that? Take me. Say I'm a veteran. I go to your court. It's mid-level kind of problem that we're having. What's going to happen to me when you refer me for treatment? So that you say, I'm going to declare that things are going well for you as a judge. What are my steps? Where do I go?
Well, one of the things that we did, as I indicated earlier, is to have a memorandum of understanding with our VA and a memorandum of understanding with William Beaumont.
Okay.
So if they're active military, they're sent to William Beaumont. If they're veterans, we send them to the VA.
Okay.
And other VA hospitals or that are not located in El Paso, such as in Albuquerque and Waco and other states. And so what happens is that we make sure that if they're away, we get reports on how they're doing. And we know when we send them that it's a 1-month program or it's a 90-day program or 120-day program, and we get reports from them. If they're here in El Paso, what we do is we utilize the VA in William Beaumont. We also utilize the Vet Center. We utilize Emergence. They have a military peer network also that does counseling. And so these are the programs that exist already for our veterans and for our active military. 11 West at William Beaumont is for our active military. We don't certify them. They're already there. They exist for our veterans. We don't go out and look for them. It's just that they're there already, and we have the memorandum of understanding for treatment that we've already accepted way before we open our doors.
Now these are all team situations. Some of them are medical and some are psychological, working with this vet. He has multiple issues.
And almost all of our veterans have multiple issues. There is not just one issue that comes in with a veteran. It's either substance abuse or mental illness. And mental illness can include not only depression, but it could include post-traumatic stress syndrome, the traumatic brain injuries, or other mental illnesses. And so if they're located here in El Paso, we meet weekly as our team, and we talk about the individuals that are reporting to court on that day, and we talk about their progress and where they're at, what else needs to be done. Say, for example, that individual that you've talked about is doing well, but somehow begins to drink again. And so we bring him back in, and under our court, we determine we need to reassess, we need to send him back to the VA or an outside provider. We need to look to see if the treatment, the medication that he's taking is appropriate for him. We refer him to the VA so that they can take a look over their medications. They may say, you know, this medication is making me feel really bad or making me feel different. So we make sure that we have constant contact with the providers at the VA or at William Beaumont. And the person that does that for us as part of our team is our Veterans Justice Outreach, VJO for short. And we have two that are with our court from the El Paso VA that are assigned to our court at this time. And they're clinical social workers that assist the court in doing that.
Okay, now you work with law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Do you have training sessions? Remember, there's a lot going on right now about police too quick to use their weapons and deadly force. Do you have sessions? Do you go meet with law enforcement people and talk about them?
I will tell you that the first individuals that said yes, will be part of your Veterans Court was our Sheriff Wiles, and our police Chief Allen.
Okay.
They're the first individuals that said yes, we will be part of your court. We want to make sure that our officers are educated on PTSD and TBI and other mental illnesses, and so we've had conversations with them. Part of their academy already talks about how to deal with these individuals with these illnesses, and so for the first time in the history of El Paso, it was our jail that about 3 years ago, actually it was about 2 years ago, was it 2 or 3
years ago?
3 years
Okay,
ago.
approximately.
That approximately during that time period where we first were able to document how many veterans in active military were being arrested and placed in our county jail. Once I started my court, I was assigned one police officer by Chief Allen, part-time, and initially one part-time sheriff's officer. Now he is full-time. We just switched officers, and now I have
These
a
were the
female
go-to
officer.
people, the go-to people.
These are the officers that are assigned to my court to assist me with our veterans and our active military. Besides the two officers, we have two peace officers that are called compliance officers out of our Veterans Court. Ms. Serna supervises all of our officers. She works with their schedules, and they visit our veterans and active military on, what do we term it?
Non-traditional hours.
Non-traditional hours. That means holidays,
Weekends.
weekends, evenings, things of that sort. And so they visit them to make sure that they are sober from any use of alcohol or any use of illegal drugs.
Okay, Silvia, you're with program, okay? Veterans Program Services. What are some of the other divisions under the judge? Other groups that work with her to deal with other issues?
We also have a full-time counselor. You know, we're very fortunate to hire a counselor.
Okay.
The counselor does not take away what the VA does for us, either the VA or the Vet Center. If anything, it's an extension of services. What we found out the first year, you know, every year, because like Judge Barill says, we're still evolving. So we're always having to change or add to our program. A couple of years ago, we noticed that when active service members become veterans, it's not a process that happens from one day to another. So during that transition, they have no services. They're either not an active duty or they're not a veteran yet. So what do they do in the interim? They're experiencing high anxiety. Some of the triggers may be present. So we noticed that we were losing them, because they're having issues. So we requested for a counselor position, a licensed professional counselor. And what he does is that he provides services, and we call them gap services. It's not in lieu of, again, what the VA provides or William Beaumont or the Vet Center, but in addition to. It complements what they're doing, because our veterans are not going to have crises Monday through Friday from 8 to 5.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of their triggers, their stressors, their symptoms are going to become active at any time. So our counselor, bless his heart, he's on call.
And they could have any degree of severity.
Exactly. And it cannot wait. I know that they have a crises line, but when you get the prompts to call here, wait there, versus a counselor that will pick up and say what's going on, that is the reason why we have a counselor. He's a full-time employee, and we're hoping that we could keep him for many, many years. It's grant funded, but that's another employee. And the officers that Judge Barill was talking about, the compliance officers, they've also been very effective. Not only are they just peace officers, they also go out and do welfare checks. Okay. We have been able to find out that some of our veterans, because when they report to court, we see them the way they are, they behave, everything is fine. When our officers go out in the field, they find out that there's no food in the refrigerator, perhaps there's no running water, perhaps there's nowhere to lie down, not even a mattress, just maybe a couple of sheets.
There's pests everywhere.
Right, so they get to do the welfare checks. They come back and report, and that's when we get the rest of the team members involved, because we have to address the other issues. Not just the criminal issue at hand, but the other issues that are caused because of the transitioning from military to coming back. And so all that needs to be done. And again, that takes the counselor and the compliance officers. I think that is our immediate staff, but yet, we've networked extensively with the community. Any veteran organization that's willing to help us, we of course always say yes, because we could always use, veteran organizations helping us out.
We're always looking for community partners.
Oh, sure. Say you're on the bench. We have just a few minutes to deal with this one. You're on the bench for that day, and you go home that evening, and you think, this was really a great day on the bench. What was it made it such a great day for you?
We have our veterans that report, and active military that report every week. And we have good times and not so good times. Right. But staying on the bench and making sure that we have that communication. These individuals that come into our court, they're not treated like defendants, they're not treated like criminals, they're treated like veteran participants. And so having that communication, being able to peek into their heart and into their mind, because they're telling us this is going well or this is not going well, and that we're able to assist them on whatever their need is, whether it's a voucher for housing because they've lost their home, educational benefits because we work with the Texas Veterans Commission to work on their benefits, refer them to Social Security benefits. It's the fact that we're able to assist at least one person or more on that day, and that we succeeded.
Wow.
And more important in the long run is to save lives, because that's really what we're doing. We're out there to make sure that they get their treatment, their medication, that they have a home, that they have income coming in because of their disability. These are things that our veterans or active military, in this case just our veterans, don't know anything about until we bring it to their attention.
I've done several programs in the last few months with veterans from World War II, from Korea, from Vietnam, and just recently from the Iraq-Afghanistan campaigns. And there are just so many things that impact these individuals who've been through the things that they've been. Let's close on that note. What about your day? A great day. We have 2 minutes left.
Shall we mention our mentors?
Yes, our mentors. That is, you know what, if you sum it all up, it was actually a veteran that started Veterans Court.
Okay.
back in 2008 in Buffalo, New York. It's just getting the veterans to help each other out. Like Judge Barill says, brothers and sisters all coming together and pulling for one another. You mentioned the different campaigns, and we have veterans from different wars, and it's all of them pulling together, helping each other out. I get a lot of gratification knowing that I'm helping the veterans.
Yeah, veterans can help each other better than we can help them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the Veterans Court work because of mentors. It's veteran upon veterans, and we're always looking for mentors to donate 1 hour of their time per week to help our veterans in our court.
Those of you watching, did you hear that? This team right here is looking for volunteers prepared, ready to help veterans, and in some cases, active military personnel.
Right.
Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being with
Thank
us
you for
today.
having us, Professor
I
Blevins.
look forward to seeing you again as Uncle Sam at some of these other events. It'll
Absolutely.
be a much lighter note, maybe.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Perspectives El Paso. I'm Leon Blevins.